of the Empire State Building.
Hey, yo, what's going on? I'm Josh Martinez from Z100, New York's #1 hit music station, with my guest, Tom Odell. What's going on, man?
Good. How you doing?
I'm chilling. You and I, before we started, discussed your plans for New York City, or your plans being in New York City.
Yeah.
So you got here when?
Monday night.
So how do you like New York City? This isn't your first time here, obviously.
No, I spent a fair amount of time here over the years. I spent like 3 months here in 2014.
Okay.
When it snowed lots. And I rented an apartment on the Lower East Side.
Okay.
Like a loft. And I stuck a piano in it. And that's where I wrote a lot of my second record.
Really?
Yeah.
So you're I believe that the quote I saw was a master pianist.
Well, that's maybe a stretch.
But damn it, I listen to your music and there's a lot of piano and there's a lot of you.
There's a lot of piano, a lot of me. Not necessarily very masterful, but there's a lot of piano. That's my thing. Yeah.
You're being humble. You kill it. Growing up, is that something that you kind of gravitated toward, the piano exactly, or was it just something that kind of came years later?
I was 6 or 7 years old. I started playing the piano and had lessons. You know, like kind of traditional. Like my grandma used to take me to lessons, and I started writing songs when I was like 10 or 11. I remember the first song I wrote when I was around that age, and I ran into my parents there watching TV, and I was like, I think I wrote a song. And then the whole thing's like snowballed from there. I never looked back. I spent the whole of my teenage years writing songs the whole time, and it's just, I guess it's like become second nature. I just really like writing songs. So
have you ever recorded one of those songs from middle school or high school?
Right, yeah. No, I haven't actually, but
okay.
I mean, a couple of my more well-known songs certainly were written, or like some of the ideas. I have this song from my first album called Grow Old With Me, and that certainly that piano part I'd had for like, probably wrote when I was like 16 or something.
Jesus.
So but yeah, there's this one melody that I have, like, that I feel like was like one of the first melodies I ever wrote, which was, I always feel like, oh, it's maybe the best melody I ever wrote.
Wow, that's high praise. Now, Another Love, you know, that's a song that came out, you know, years ago, kind of had a little bit of a resurgence in recent years. When you get these metrics and you get these numbers, obviously top 10 UK, cool, but then when you find out like billion streams, altogether, or double platinum in the States and platinum all over the, like, you know, and you're seeing these numbers of #1 in this country that you've never been to, I can't imagine what that feeling is like.
Well, I think it's interesting in this day and age. It's like it's done it with relatively little sort of fanfare, or it's done it quite quietly. It's just it's sort of, I guess, been added to people's playlists, and, you know, built itself up over time. I mean, TikTok had quite a lot to do with it as well. But yeah, I'm super thrilled that people like it and they've shared it with each other, and, you know, it's great.
Do you remember the first text, email, or phone call that it was like, hey, this is, we could curse, by the way, this shit is going crazy right now?
Yeah, well, certainly, I think it was like in 2020 or end of 2020.
COVID times, as we call it.
Yeah, I maybe it was end of 2020 or 2021. I can't. 2021 was it? Yeah. Beginning of 2021. I remember just like, because I joined TikTok like everybody else did. And
boredom, COVID, yeah.
I started noticing that, like just on my For You page, that, like, I would scroll up and then it would just be some like random video and have the song on it, and I was like, oh, it's like, for a while I just thought it was the algorithm that wants to, you know, because obviously, like,
it knows it's you.
Yeah, I was like, oh, it's just like giving me my song because it's, you know, it's trying to please me.
Yeah.
But then there was like a point in 2021 or 2022 where it was like literally every 4 videos would be like the Another Love sound. And I was like, this is so weird. But yeah, I mean, I'm obviously super thrilled that I've made something that you know, people can connect to and find it. I think the interesting one with that song is that it's very emotional, you know. It's not like cool or like, it's just kind of emotional, and I like that. I like that I've made something that is emotive, you know, rather than.
When did you write that song? Let's put it into perspective for people.
I wrote that song when I was 21 probably. Maybe 20.
What's the year time frame?
2011.
Okay.
2011, I'd say. I wrote it in springtime.
Oh. That's I don't think that meant like that type of sound and spring don't exactly go hand in hand.
The lyric that sparked. Well, I wrote it in a few different chunks. The first was actually earlier. The piano part I wrote when I was living in Brighton in the UK. I lived in this little like studio apartment thing. I had a keyboard in there, and I think it was just like in the middle of the night, like came up with it. And I remember thinking it was really good, but then didn't think anything of it for a few years.
Years?
Yeah, I think so. Like, it probably would have been a couple of years, and then I remember it was sort of half finished idea. I didn't have any lyrics on it, and then it was springtime, and I remember it was in the UK. I don't know if you get it here, but you know, the first quite early in like maybe like mid-February or early March, you start getting daffodils. Do you get daffodils here?
Concrete jungle, baby. I'm sure they're around here somewhere. I don't see them.
Maybe not in Manhattan.
I don't see them.
But
I just know that leaves on trees, and that's where I'm like, oh, they're green. I guess something good is happening.
Do you know what? You know, like daffodils, those yellow plants.
Absolutely.
Yeah, you know what? Okay, cool. Just checking.
I paid attention in elementary school.
But yeah, basically, I just remember seeing daffodils, and it sparked this lyric, which is in the song. I brought you daffodils in a pretty string, but they won't flower like they did last spring. And I was feeling a bit heartbroken at the time.
I would think so. I listened to that song, and it came from a place of hurt and pain.
Yeah, and that I guess I just remember the whole song then sort of came from that one line. And then for a while the song was called Another Heart. Remember that? It was like all my tears had been used up on another heart, on another heart.
Huh.
And then somewhere along the way I changed it to Love because it sounded better.
Interesting.
And then I remember when I recorded it, I recorded it very quickly, like in like a day or something. And then that was like the demo, which is kind of quite similar to the final version. I remember I then signed to Columbia Records. And I remember the boss of Columbia Records was like, you really need to write like a middle eight section, or what would you call it here? Bridge section. And so like I went back into the studio and like I tried for quite a long time to add another section to it, and I couldn't. And so it's just kind of that bit at the end of the song where I'm just sort of like shouting. It just felt right. So I just there's that whole bit and it's weird because people think I'm saying something, but that's not what I'm saying. So the lyrics on Spotify and stuff, whatever they think it is, that isn't it.
Now, I'm always fascinated with artists who, write their own music, produce their own music, or at least the majority of it. And then they deal with certain pressures that come from the business, which is very standard, by the way. How do you deal with that type of stuff? If certain people come to you and say, hey, we need you to write a love song, but maybe you're in a breakup mode. How do you kind of deal with that from a creative standpoint?
I don't think I've ever really been in a situation where those demands have been put on me.
Okay.
I think, like, I was signed to Columbia for an RCA over here for, I don't know, like 10 years or something. But I think it was always somewhat clear that I write my songs, I produce the records. Like, there's definitely like pressures maybe, but that's more after I've made the music. And I think I think the common thing in the music industry is is the pressure to make something upbeat, is to make something that can be played on the radio and feels like
a radio hit, quote unquote.
Like it's 120 BPM and sort of has the drums on it, and it's 2.5 minutes or 3 minutes or something. I mean,
3 minutes nowadays is too damn long, apparently.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, 2 minutes more, like, or a minute and a half maybe, which is great for the songwriters because it's less work.
And great from a streaming standpoint, because if you love it and you consume it 10 times, that's only 13 minutes of life that you just not wasted, but spent listening to the song, and you can't get enough of it, so you keep streams go through the roof.
I couldn't agree more. But I feel that if I'm being like honest with you, like I feel pressure, but almost entirely just from myself. And I've always just really, really, and I can say this, I've made mistakes along the way. There's things I look back and I go like, oh, like, I hate that song. Like, I wish I hadn't have put that out. And there's, maybe things concerts I could have done better and stuff, but I think that's part of being an artist. You always look back, and there's huge parts of my work that I don't like now. But the thing I can say with my hand on my heart is that I always liked it. I always absolutely loved it when I put it out, and I always felt I've always been driven by a desire to write songs that are authentic to myself, but also to my own love of music. And really that's always been the pressure and the drive. It's never been, I could have done things in my career that would have made it a lot easier for myself to make money, or to do bigger shows or tours. I've never been driven by the desire to be successful or make loads of money, or like, I've always just been driven by the desire to write fucking good songs. As I say, I don't think I'm a saint in any means in terms of an artist, but I can say that with my hand on my heart.
I think it's dope that you recognize, basically what you're saying is like, we all evolve as people, and we all aren't exactly happy with things that we put together in the past, or not even life decisions, but just art that we've put out. Maybe we don't like it, but I think it's dope that you recognize, you know what? I liked it at the time, and at the end of it, I'm comfortable. And I think that's the most important thing, is being comfortable in that decision.
I think it's the only way. Honestly, I've been doing this since, like, as I say, 2011, and it's 2023 now, right? And I've touched wood, I haven't had to get another job yet. But I can honestly say that, of the thing I've learnt the most is you have to have that attitude, because otherwise you would beat yourself up with regret and I could have, if that mix had been different, and it can really, you can become quite obsessed with that stuff, and also, like, I think there's a really amazing thing that happens with, like, I listen back to sometimes songs from when I was 22, 23, and I'm like, I would never write that today, but there's a beauty in that, because it is, as long as is that you feel like you've developed, you've moved, you've grown,
evolution. We've evolved as people.
So I feel super proud of that.
Now, excuse me, when we put the whole scope of things together, I think it's fascinating that, you wrote the song that has basically blown up and essentially changed your life years ago. Yeah. Right? I recently spoke with Miguel, and Sure Thing by Miguel kind of had a similar resurgence. Sure, yeah. And I asked him about it. Basically, like, yo, how does it feel? Are you kind of like, you don't want to perform it? Because he wrote it when he was 17. Wow. And my man's in his 30s, chilling now. You know what I'm saying? Successful. And he was just basically like, yo, I love it. Yeah. It adds new life to me as well. And I think it's dope that you sit there and go, hey, I'm cool with that too.
I can't see a world in which I would, not be happy about it. Like, it's just, I think if it was just like a shit song, like if it was a song I hated, and if it was like, what was that, like, Crazy Frog song from years ago. If it was like something like that I just wanted to forget about, that I involved myself in, I'd be really upset, I think, that this song. But I love that song. I think it's a great song. So
one last question before we wrap things up. What can we expect from you in 2023 and beyond?
So I've been in the studio, so hopefully lots more music, and I'm touring. I'm touring the States in October.
You are. Starting in the fall.
So I'm going all over the country. It's the biggest tour we've ever done. We're doing Brooklyn, Steel in New York.
That's right.
And the band I've been playing with, we've been playing together for over a decade now, and we're really proud of the live show. And I sometimes think that it's not quite what people expect when they come to the show. It's a pretty dramatic affair, and I'm super excited for this tour, and it's selling really well, and we're so happy. It's like so get your tickets now if you can. And in the meantime, we're doing like tons of European festivals, but we're doing Lollapalooza in Chicago, and Bottle Rock.
Yeah.
I'm going to call it Bottle Rocket.
You know what? It's what you want to call it, dude. It doesn't even matter anymore. You're going to be there, and that's all that matters. People know what's up. So one more time, Tom Odell, appreciate you coming by, man. Thank you
so much, man.
From the top of the Empire State Building.